In the deepest shadows of the underworld, where the souls of men drift like mist through blackened halls, Hades, Lord of the Dead, sat upon his obsidian throne. For eons, he had ruled in silence and solitude. But even for a god, eternity can be a long, dull road. Boredom, that cruelest of gods, began to gnaw at his immortal mind. He sighed, his voice rolling through the caverns like distant thunder. Ares, come forth. A blaze of crimson flame, Ares, the god of war, appeared. His eyes burned like coals, his silver armor gleaming with the light of 1,000 battles. "Uncle," he greeted, his voice sharp as a blade's edge. Hades gestured languidly. "Nephew, I grow weary of this silence. Let us play a game. Greek versus Trojan. Let the old war breathe again." Ares laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "The Greeks and Trojans? Old stories for old men, like you and my father? Their blood is long dry." He stepped closer, resting the butt of his spear on the obsidian floor with a sharp crack. "If you crave a game of war, let us play a newer one. One that tore a single nation in two, brother against brother." The war god's hands swept across the air. Smoke gathered, twisting and coiling. From it rose a battlefield drenched in fog and sorrow. Men in Union bluecoats stood in silent, disciplined ranks. Across the field, men in Confederate gray waited beyond a skeletal tree line. The smell of gunpowder, the low rumble of drums. A battlefield reborn from memory. Hades smiled, a dark, knowing expression spreading across his face. "Ah, the American Civil War, the blue and the gray." "Yes," Ares confirmed, his eyes alight with a fierce glow. "Let's see whose cause still fights beyond the veil of death." At Ares' unspoken command, the ground itself split open. From the fissures rose the fallen thousands of the dead from both armies, their faces as pale as ash, their eyes burning like embers in the gloom. Their uniforms were torn, their flags tattered, yet they stood ready, weapons in hand. Hades raised his hand, and a sea of spectral soldiers turned their empty eyes towards him. "I command the Confederate," he declared. "And I, the Union," Ares countered. A dangerous grin touched his lips. "Let the game begin." The first volley of muskets cracked across the field, the muzzle flashes like pale fire in the gloom. The Union line advanced, their brogans striking phantom earth as they marched through the mist. Ghostly drums beat in time with heartbeats long forgotten. The Confederates responded, their ranks kneeling and firing as one. Their shots tore through the Union line, dissolving men into clouds of ash. But this was the Underworld. The fallen simply reformed, spectral hands gripping their rifles once more. The dead could not die again. They rose, fired, fell, and rose once more in a horrifying, endless cycle. The field became a relentless tide of war, a macabre dance of smoke and sorrow. From the hills, cannons roared, black iron ghosts bellowing thunder across the spectral landscape. The Union Army advanced through flame, stepping over the bones of memory. The Confederates held firm behind shattered fences and half-burned trees, their resolve unshaken, even in death. The very air seemed to scream with the echoes of a past conflict. A Union cavalry charge tore through the mist, the thunder of ghostly hooves shaking the ground. Sabers flashed like silver lightning, striking the Confederate flank and scattering them in a swirl of ghost fire. But then, through the haze, came the Confederate countercharge. Men who had once fought and died at Shiloh, Antietam, and Gettysburg now rose from eternity's grasp. Their commander, a figure of grim determination, raised a spectral sword and cried out, his voice echoing with the passion of a lost cause. Hold the line. For home, for honor. The two forces collided with a crash that shook the underworld itself. Bayonets clashed. Smoke smothered the air. Men who had once called each other brothers now fought as enemies in the twilight of eternity. There was no blood, only bursts of ethereal light, and the whispered sighs of memory when a soldier fell, only to rise again. Amidst the chaos, a Union drummer boy ran forward through the fog. His face was impossibly young, his form translucent. He beat his drum with a furious rhythm, even though his ghostly chest bore the clear mark of an old bullet wound. Even death had not silenced his duty. He beat for courage, for his comrades, for the living and the lost. Hades watched from his throne, a spectator to this grand, terrible play. His eyes gleamed with a chilling fascination. "They fight with more passion in death than they did in life," he mused. Ares did not reply. His gaze was fixed on the field, on the faces of the fallen, on the agony of their endless, unwavering loyalty. This was his domain, yet what he saw was not glory. The cannons fell silent. Then a storm of spectral fire erupted from the Union line as they surged forward, their flags waving defiantly. The Confederates met them head-on, an immovable wall of gray. For a single, breathless heartbeat, all creation held its breath. When they collided, the sky above the Underworld split open in a silent explosion of light. Shadows of old generals appeared in the ether. Grant and Lee, watching wordlessly from the mists of time. Ghostly fire engulfed both sides. Muskets turned to ash and phantom hands. Horses screamed without a sound. Still they fought. Men with no hearts, driven only by cause and memory. Every shot was an echo of the past. Every blade's thrust, a lingering regret. And in that eternal war, no one could win, because no one could truly die. Then, slowly, the thunder of battle faded. The field grew silent. Smoke drifted across the torn earth. The Union and Confederate soldiers stood facing one another, their weapons slowly lowering. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, they looked into each other's eyes, and they remembered. They remembered brothers, sons, and neighbors, all lost to the same soil, the same tragic conflict. One Union soldier, his face etched with a sorrow deeper than death, stepped forward and dropped his rifle. Its clatter was the only sound. Across the field, a Confederate ghost mirrored him. Slowly, like a wave of understanding, the entire battlefield followed suit. Their weapons falling into the mist, their war finally over. Ares' hand trembled, and he lowered his spear. "There is no glory here," he whispered, his voice heavy. "Only grief." Hades nodded, his gaze distant. Mortals remember their pain. With a final, solemn wave of his hand, Hades released the field. The ghosts of the Union and Confederate armies dissolved into mist, their long torment finally at an end, their souls at peace at last. Only silence remained. "We have seen enough," Ares said, his voice flat. "The game is done." "Indeed," Hades replied, his voice a low rumble. "War has no victors, only survivors, and I keep them all." Ares turned away, his crimson armor fading back into the shadows. "Then may you find your entertainment elsewhere, Lord of the Dead." Hades sat once more upon his throne, staring into the flickering soul fire that lit his halls. For the first time in an age, he felt something that resonated deeper than boredom, something that felt almost like pity. "The gods may tire of war," he said to the empty hall, "but the dead never forget it." Thanks for watching this mythological tale. If you enjoy stories that explore the depths of legend and human nature, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you never miss a new story. We'll see you in the next one.